and welcome to Caribbean Body Talk Headline News. I'm Christina Perry, your community news reporter. Today's program will not take place in our usual BVC studios because today we're on location. We're at Cablevision of New York City, located on Soundview Avenue in the Bronx, where today a historic event is about to take place. News 12, The Bronx, the first 24-hour news channel dedicated to, for, and about the Bronx, will celebrate its launch today. Due to this special event, we will change the format of our program today. We will not have our usual business profile, but we promise to bring you an interesting business person next week. While we are waiting the press coverage and the launch of News 12, Caribbean Body Talk is committed to bringing you news and entertainment, whether it comes from around the corner or across the border. And our conference is about to begin, so now let us go inside and join News 12.
Good morning, I'm Roberto Soto, News Director of News 12 The Bronx. This is a very, very unique and historic occasion. Welcome all of you to News 12 The Bronx. This is the first regional news service dedicated exclusively to our borough. On behalf of Cablevision, Rainbow Media, and News 12, I welcome all of you, members of the New York City Press Corps, to this historic event. News 12 The Bronx will be truly a unique news service. We will cover the Bronx the way it ought to be covered, thoroughly, intelligently, and up to the minute. We will provide news and information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To better service the Bronx extensive Hispanic community, News 12 The Bronx has entered into a unique content provider partnership and editorial arrangement with El Diario La Prensa and happenings relevant to Bronx's Hispanic residents, which I am a proud member of, Hispanic and a new member of the Bronx. Again, I welcome all of you to our studios. We have several distinguished guests here. We have Mr. Charles Dolan, who is chairman of Cablevision Systems. We have Mr. Joshua Sapan, president and chief executive officer of Rainbow Media Holdings. And of course, last but not least, my boss, Mr. Pat Dolan, senior vice president of News 12 Networks. Each of these gentlemen will say a few words to you, and then we will show you a short video highlighting what you all can expect from News 12 The Bronx. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome the chairman, Mr. Charles Dolan.
Thank you, Roberto. Roberto is right. This is an auspicious moment for us. One, I'd like to begin by thanking everybody in the Bronx for the welcome they have given over the last decade to Cablevision. This really has been the fastest growing cable television system in the nation over that period. And it is, I think it's appropriate that we are here with this announcement today. Our career in cable television really began more than 30 years ago in New York City when we started Manhattan Cable Television. And what we learned with Manhattan Cable Television is that if you wanted to be successful with cable in New York, that you had to be much more than cable. You had to be fundamentally a content provider. We like, as an analogy, to compare ourselves to newspapers. We think that the fundamental of cable is the content, just as none of the newspapers here present thinks of itself as a printing press company. We don't like to think of ourselves really as a cable television company. We like to see ourselves as an editorial company, and we tried to be that with Manhattan Cable in the long ago, and with Cablevision we became content-oriented even more so, to the extent today that we have the largest programming section, I think, of any cable company in the industry, doing programs like American Movie Classics, Bravo, much music, romance, classics, etc. About a decade ago in our programming activity, we began the News 12 operation, a little more than 10 years ago on Long Island. And what we have learned from that experience over the years is that our viewers care first about their own communities. That's where their primary interest focuses. And after their own communities, then the region, the nation, the world. News 12 has worked very well on Long Island and has been extended to, we have News 12 Connecticut, News 12 Westchester, News 12 New Jersey. And we have found also in these years that if people care first about their communities in the Bronx, people care passionately about their communities. If the Bronx were located anywhere else in the United States but as part of New York City, it would long ago have been served by multiple news operations. But the Bronx, being part of New York City, has always been required to share its news coverage with the rest of the New York area. Now, for the first time, we have a 24-hour, 7-day news program that is going to take as its beat, as its focus, the diverse neighborhoods of the Bronx. And what I hope is that over time we will be able to demonstrate, not only for the people of the Bronx, but for the New York area, that the real stories of the Bronx are not crime or iron beams falling at Yankee Stadium, but they are the successes and the activities and the involvements of the people of the Bronx. That is going to be a challenging and a wonderful activity, and I am very proud that Cablevision is involved in it. The person who is heading up the group that will meet that challenge is Josh Sapan, who runs the Rainbow division of Rainbow, which is responsible for all of our programming. Josh?
As Chuck mentioned, 12 years ago, the first News 12 operation began in Long Island. And at that time, it was thought by some skeptics to defy what was conventionally believed to make good, sensible economic news. It didn't have scale, it was small, just Long Island. News was perishable, not syndicatable, and it was in the shadow of the largest market in New York where news is done well by network O&Os. The remarkable story is that News 12 Long Island struck a tremendously responsive chord with the people who lived on Long Island because it talked to them about where they lived, and it talked to them about their schools and their streets and their neighborhoods and all of the issues, their politicians, that were of immediate concern to them and that affected their daily lives. Cablevision went on, as Chuck mentioned, to launch News 12 operations based upon the vitality and success and experience in Long Island in Westchester, Connecticut, and New Jersey, and had a similar experience in each place. And that was that while people were interested in what was going on in Ireland, as they may be today, they were simultaneously and at least as interested in what was going on literally down their street and in their kids' school. And the local interest was at least as fierce and perhaps more passionate as the macro, national, or global interest. Today, I think, is a really remarkable and exciting day as we announce the launch of News 12 in the Bronx, because it is the 5th place in the region where we will operate. And for the reasons that Chuck described, we think both in need and warranting a regional news operation. I think one other thing that can be a byproduct of a regional news service is that inasmuch as news on the TV screen is a reflection of where people live as portrayed by television, News 12 The Bronx has the opportunity to portray not only the challenges of living in the Bronx, but also the opportunities and the success and the heroism. And I think it's our hope that the advent of News 12 in the Bronx will have a beneficial effect in many ways, as it creates a bit of a different portrait of what the Bronx is on the television screen. The people who make News 12 happen, the entire group, are wonderful people, and I think it's fair to say that they produce the finest news in the metropolitan area. And I just want to recognize them. Roberto is a new member that joins Steve Weinberg, who's here, and Norm Fine, who work on all of our other news operations. And the news operations work closely with the cable operations of Cablevision in the area. And we have here today Pat Felice, who's in charge of the region, our senior vice president, and Bill Ryan, the VP of the New York system. And the person who makes it all happen at the center of it and at the heart of it, who breathes a life into it, is Pat Dolan. I'd like to turn the podium over to Pat for a moment.
Thank you, Josh. As usual, you've both stolen my thunder here, but I'll try to elaborate on the message that you folks have expressed. And I'd like to, first of all, thank you all for coming and for giving us a chance to brag a little bit about what we think is going to be a very, very important asset for the Bronx. As you will see from the tape that we're going to run, the News 12 concept came out of the fact that the Manhattan-based over-the-air news organizations cover such an immense territory, they really can't afford to drill down into the communities and cover the kind of stories that aren't, quote, big, but still have a huge impact on the people who live in those communities. But covering those kinds of stories is what News 12 The Bronx will be all about. We're about what's happening in your local school districts, your community councils. We're about local arts groups, events in the parks, environmental issues. We're about high school sports, how the Bronx economy is doing, what's being done to renew neighborhoods and to create jobs. We're going to cover the issues that matter. We'll cover them thoroughly and fairly. But we're also going to celebrate some of the wonderful and unique qualities of this borough. The rich, ethnically diverse neighborhoods, the parks, the history, places like the Botanical Gardens, Wave Hill, the Hall of Fame for Great Americans, Fieldston, the Bronx Zoo, Arthur Avenue, where you can get the best Italian desserts on this side of the Atlantic, I understand. There's a lot to be proud of, and it's part of our mission here to help spread that pride. And the professionals who will accomplish all of this are your news professionals. They are talented, they're eager, and they are 100% dedicated to the Bronx. You won't, as my father said, have to share them with anyone. They're yours. News 12, as has been mentioned, is the 5th News 12 operation to be established in the New York area, so the Bronx operation will benefit from all the lessons we've learned about how to do a news service that is truly different and truly matters. And as a member of the News 12 network, News 12 The Bronx will have access to some impressive technical resources, including our state-of-the-art news helicopter, Chopper 12, which I always like to get a little plug-in for. Add to that, we'll be working with the immensely experienced staff of El Diario, one of the largest and best Spanish-language newspapers in the country. So it all adds up to a big win for the Bronx, and I think it's really going to be a lot of fun. And I want to thank everyone here for your support, and I'd like to say, enjoy your channel.
Thank you, Pat. In order to provide residents of the borough with unparalleled in-depth coverage of news, events, and issues that truly affect all of us, News 12 The Bronx will feature the latest in newsroom production and news gathering technologies. We have New York City's metropolitan area's newest and most state-of-the-art newsroom, which includes the only fully integrated, entirely automated live video production system in the whole nation. We will be able to transmit signals throughout our borough quickly, cost-effectively, through use of fiber optic network. Now we're going to show you a brief video of what you can expect to see on News 12 The Bronx. And after the brief video, we will take questions from the members of the news media who are here. And I just ask you, please, to identify yourselves when you ask your question. And if I can ask the control room to roll that tape. News 12 The Bronx comes from a tradition of 24-hour regional news services from Cablevision's Rainbow Media. There are 4 News 12 organizations currently in operation on Long Island, in New Jersey, in Connecticut, and Westchester County. Each News 12 channel has become the leader in local news within its viewing area. In fact, a Nielsen survey of all 4 channels showed that when a major local event occurred, News 12 was the first choice, beating out all other news operations, including channels 2, 4, and 7. News 12 The Bronx will meet the standard of excellence of this well-respected news family. Like other News 12s, News 12 The Bronx is a cable-exclusive service. The programming schedule includes round-the-clock news editions, plus programs featuring an in-depth look at the issues.
I'd like to remind you that we are coming to you from Cablevision of New York City, located on Soundview Avenue in the Bronx, at the launch celebration for News 12 The Bronx, the first 24-hour news channel devoted to the Bronx and about the Bronx. And I'm Christina Perry reporting.
And while we're on welcomes, I'd like to take this opportunity again to thank all you distinguished members of the New York City news media. We also have some editorial heavy hitters here today, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome them to the News 12 The Bronx News Conference. The president of El Diario La Prensa, Mr. Peter Davidson. Thank you for coming, Peter. The publisher of El Diario La Prensa, Carlos Ramirez. Carlos, thank you for coming. And last but not least, the editor-in-chief, Rosana Rosado, who you saw on the tape just a couple of seconds ago. Thank you for being here. Now that I announced some of the editorial types that we have here, I'd also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of some of the folks that will make this wonderfully automated 24-hour newsroom work for us. Mr. Jonathan White, who is the president of Digimation. Jonathan, thank you for coming. Bill Traynor, who is the president of Capital Networks. Bill, thank you for coming. Welcome, all the way from Canada. And Jeff Parker from Parker Vision from Florida, all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. Welcome, all of you. Thanks for coming. I would like to open up for some questions. If anyone has any questions, all I ask is that you identify yourself so we all know who you are. Yes, sir.
Michael Starr, the New York Post. Do you have a specific start date in mind, specific date, and also the number of cable households that this will be available?
Yes, we hope to launch in May. Hopefully, the first week or two in May. And the answer, cable households, 250,000. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am?
I'm Alexandra Mark from the Citizen Science Monitor. What's the annual operating budget, and will it just be underwritten by cable fees, or how is that?
Well, it is Cablevision's policy not to discuss budgetary items. I think it's suffice to say that there's quite an impressive venture, and a lot of money has been invested in this 24-hour news operation exclusively for the Bronx.
It will be underwritten by cable fees? Is that the primary source of funding?
The service will be offered at no additional cost to the people who live in the Bronx. So it is being funded by Cablevision out of that business.
Does the potential for competition from, say, BVS and, other alternative sources of cable, is that one reason you all are going to focus on sort of branching?
On BVS, some of it is exclusive. Certainly the exclusive stuff is, we think, is important and very meaningful. It creates variety and it creates alternatives.
Anyone else? Sir?
Richard Morgan, Variety. Any plans for other boroughs after this?
Stay tuned.
Good.
We would love to do Portland. We have a cable system there, and it would be the logical next venue for News 12. We're working on it.
Are there any cable competitors in the Bronx, or you guys do?
Well, cable competitors, there are so many cable competitors. DBS is certainly a cable competitor. The broadcasters are cable competitors. We were sort of born in competition. When cable started, the idea was that we were the competitor to broadcast at this point. But as Josh just indicated, we like to think that what the subscriber wants is programming that is important to him, and it's our task to provide that, whether we create it ourselves or we take it buy it at wholesale from a satellite. It is our task to create the greatest composite, the most interesting, useful composite programming to the subscriber. And you don't have to be at it very long, then you recognize that the subscriber cares about news, especially local news. The more local, the better. And he cares about sports, and he cares about news, about weather and traffic, and so on and so forth. And we want to pursue all of that. And we think if we do that well, we don't need to worry about cable competitors.
Thanks.
Hi, Donna.
Do you anticipate that you're going to be able to generate enough advertising revenue from local advertising, or do you anticipate there being some kind of mix between? Can you generate any national advertising?
The answer is yes to both, absolutely. You know, what our experience has been in the News 12 operations is, and first and foremost, what underlies it is consumer vitality. If people are watching it and they find it important, then it becomes commercially more viable because it's a better advertising vehicle. Our expectation specifically is that we will have advertising from two different revenue streams, importantly locally, as well people who want to buy the New York market, and national advertisers who find that they're reaching an audience that's paying great attention when they're watching a regional news channel and a regional news channel in the Bronx. So yes, all forms of advertising are expected.
Subscriber base in the Bronx, the reason you started in the Bronx first? I mean, why the Bronx specifically?
I think so, and the fact that the Bronx is such a diverse community has something to do with it. Possibly the fact that the Bronx has gotten such a bad rap over the last few years. It's time to show the other side what a wonderful place it is. I've only been living here for a couple of months in the Bronx, but I can tell you that I'm learning more about it and becoming more proud to be a resident of the Bronx.
This is the first time that Cablevision's News 12 has come into an urban area such as the Bronx. Were there any specific problems you had to address to bring this type of newscast to an urban area as opposed to the suburban areas where News 12 has traditionally been in place?
The operation came together fairly smoothly, considering it is the first time we've ventured into an urban area. But you have to keep in mind that News 12 was born in Long Island, and there are some pockets that can be described as urban areas there. So we're familiar with urban issues, because actually there are urban issues in the suburbs. But I think that the Bronx, because it is an underserved area, it is not served well by the news organizations that are based in Manhattan. They don't come up here and cover the neighborhood issues, the schools, the local government, the arts. That it is really a target-rich environment in terms of stories to be told. There's so many important stories that have largely been untold, and we're going to focus on them. Their mouthpiece, their way of communicating with each other, expressing themselves on the issues, and making their voices heard.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here with Roberto Soto, News Director of News 12 The Bronx. I want to congratulate you on a very successful launch.
Thank you so much, and I hope that the people of the Bronx will suddenly realize what a wonderful outfit this will be. This will be serving the Bronx
The other cultures that are represented with our Bronx community, Haitian, all sorts of Caribbeans, the Indian population, will stories be geared towards those nationalities and cultures also?
I promise that any group that watches News 12 will not only identify with our staff, because we have a multicultural, bilingual staff. We have all members, all representatives of this wonderful community. Not only will you identify with the staff, but you will also keenly identify with our programming. Our programming is what's going to set us apart from any of the other channels that you're now watching. Thank you, Christina, and thank you, viewers. Keep watching.
I have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Charles Dolan on the launch of News 12 The Bronx. First of all, thank you for coming by. Bronx residents are happy to see you here. You spoke during the news conference of the importance of Cablevision being more than just a cable service, that the content that you provide is very important. Based on competition coming into the area and things of that nature, how important is it that the content you provide Bronx residents be more than just movie channels and sports?
I think it's very important. Finally, the residents of any community will care about the company that cares most about them. The focus has to be on the community and on the customer, what's happening here, the aspirations of the people, the leadership. If we can present that regularly, dependably on the screen, we expect that the community will care about us.
Have you found that as News 12 comes into the various regions that I know ratings-wise it becomes a top-rated program, but that the residents become more aware of their neighborhood?
We found that particularly on Long Island. When we started on Long Island, the question was asked, well, will the people in Great Neck care what's happening in Montauk? Do people have a sense of being residents of Long Island, or are they just residents of one part of Long Island? And our experience has been that maybe that was the case when we started, but the effect of News 12 Long Island has been to give the entire island a greater sense of being a single community. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we have that success here?
Most definitely. Well, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Christina.
News 12 The Bronx is finally a reality. What started as an idea in the mind's eyes of Cablevision executives, comprised of blueprints, equipment, and office furniture, has come to life with a staff of experienced news personnel dedicated and committed to serving the residents of the Bronx.